How are you tonight? My name is Ed Travers. My pronouns are he, him, and his. I'm an Anglican priest serving in the beautiful parish of St. Margaret of Scotland that sits on the ancestral and on the unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. Way. Now, I got a friend of mine sent me an image from one of the videos that I did this week of a comment. And the comment said, God does not call the church to spread the love of Christ. The church is called to spread the gospel. We'll come to that in a second. That is different and altogether repugnant to the atheist and the ex-church members who cheer on Ed in these comments. It should cause Ed to check himself, but he seems immune. I may be immune, and that's okay. What is the gospel if it isn't an expression of the love of Jesus Christ? I'll wait for it. But what is the gospel if it isn't the ultimate expression of the love of Jesus Christ and therefore the love of God for all humanity? That's exactly what the gospel is. Now, with that being said, if this person has a problem with this particular video that I did, just wait till they hear one of the talks that we're going to do tonight. And as a matter of fact, we're going to jump right into it because I'm kind of excited about it. My sinuses are starting to clear up, and I thought, let's get to it now while I can speak. Here's the comment. This is the comment that we're going to speak about tonight. I'm an atheist. Do you expect that I will be tortured forever, and do you find that moral? Sorry, just checking to see if you're a horrible person. Well, I don't think my answer has anything to do with whether or not I'm a horrible person. I may very well be a horrible person. In many ways, I suspect that I've got some horribleness in me. So, my answer I really don't think is going to have any bearing on whether or not I'm a horrible person. With that being said, do I expect that you, an atheist, will be tortured forever? And would I find that moral? Well, I think that if you were going to be tortured forever, I would think that's quite immoral. But I also don't expect that you or any other atheist will be tortured forever. Now, all this comes from Paul's letter to the Romans. My sentiment on this, my expectations, my thoughts about this kind of thing all come from Paul's letter to the Romans, and for what it's worth, some stuff that was written by theologians and authors later on, sort of, I don't want to say inform me, but offer me an understanding that I think is quite valuable. Anyhow, in Paul's letter to the Romans, the second chapter, starting in verse 12, he says, all who sin apart from the law will also perish apart from the law. And all who sin under the law will be judged by the law. Now, before I go on, it's important to understand, in the first chapter of this book, of this letter, Paul talks about how God has been visible, God has been discernible throughout history, long before the words were ever written down, long before God ever appeared to Abraham, that God was visible to humanity in nature. All right. So if you're looking at nature, if you see what's going on around you, if you go for a walk in the woods, if you go for a walk at the beach, if you climb a mountain or hike down into a valley, if you go hunting or plant a crop, you are in the presence of God, and you can see God, and you can discover God. Anyhow, let's come back to verse 13. For it is not those who hear the law who are righteous in God's sight, but it is those who obey the law who will be declared righteous. Indeed, when Gentiles who do not have the law do by nature things required by the law, they are a law for themselves, even though they do not have the law. They show that the requirements of the law are written on their hearts. Their consciences also bearing witness, and their thoughts sometimes accusing them, at other times defending them. This will take place on the day when God judges people's secrets through Jesus Christ, as my gospel declares. Now, what Paul's getting at here is this: we are not judged by things we don't know. We are judged by what we do know. So for Paul, he's talking about people who have never heard the gospel, people who have never heard the law, people who have never heard about Jesus Christ or the things that Jesus has done. He's talking about people who perhaps never heard of God or only understand God through another faith, through another belief system. And he's saying God, to be fair, can't possibly judge people and say, well, you didn't do this and this and this, when they didn't know they were supposed to, when nobody ever taught them they were supposed to. So therefore, they will be judged according to what they do know. So you're an atheist. So what? Are you living according to the way you were brought up? Are you living according to the beliefs, not necessarily religious beliefs, but to the values, to the moralities, to the ideologies, to the standards that you were instructed? And if so, then that's what is used to end up judging you. Now, I know somebody out there is going to say, no, are you kidding me? In this world, everybody's heard of the Gospels, or everybody has been to church, or whatever the case might be. Well, now, here's the part that may really tick Christians off. And it's something that I often ask myself, just so you know, I'm not immune to this part of the conversation. Those people who have heard the message from the church, whatever church it happens to be, those people that have heard the gospel declared from the pulpit in an Anglican church or an Episcopal church or a Roman Catholic church, a Southern Baptist church, Methodist church, Lutheran church, Pentecostal church, whatever church it happened to be, those people who heard the message from the front, who heard the message from the leaders, who heard the message from their Sunday school teachers, who heard the message all their lives growing up, and who have come to reject it. Was it the gospel they actually heard? Or was it the gospel according to Ed? Was it the gospel according to Frank? Was it the gospel according to Greg? Was it the gospel according to Billy? Was it the gospel according to Thomas? Whoever it happened to be, did they hear the gospel, or did they hear our bastardization of the gospel? Did they hear the stories of Jesus in their purest form, or did they hear our twisting of the stories of Jesus? Because if they rejected Ed's interpretation, how can God hold them accountable? If they rejected Frank's interpretation, if they rejected Greg's twisting of the stories of Jesus Christ, if they rejected Thomas's bastardization of the love of Jesus Christ as expressed through the gospel, then what is it that they rejected? Did they reject Christ? No. They never heard. Did they reject the teachings? No. That was never offered. What they rejected was our agenda. What they rejected was our message that we wanted to convey in the guise of the gospel. They rejected our message that we use the gospel as a vehicle to deliver. But the gospel in and of itself wasn't what was actually offered. So again, I come back to the comment, and my answer has no bearing on whether or not I'm a horrible person. I want to make sure that's very, very clear. I am an atheist. Do you expect that I will be tortured forever? And do you find that moral? I would not find that moral, but I do not expect that you will be tortured forever, because I don't know why you're an atheist. I don't know what led you to that place. Maybe you've never heard the gospel, in which case you'll be judged according to my faith So if you die and you're wrong and you show up in the presence of God, you will be judged according to the standards that you were taught. And if you are someone who has rejected the quote unquote gospel, it's the same thing applies. What was it that you actually rejected? The teachings of Jesus, to me, nobody rejects them, because the teachings of Jesus are beautiful and lovely and wonderful and inspiring. They're a catalyst for life. They're a catalyst for love. They're a catalyst for personal growth. They are a catalyst for world change. They're a catalyst for a world that we can't even imagine. The true teachings of Jesus are never rejected. Ed's teaching of the gospel, maybe. Frank's teaching of the gospel, maybe. Greg's teaching of the gospel, maybe. Thomas's teaching of the gospel, maybe. But in those cases, you're not rejecting Christ. You're rejecting Ed, Frank, Greg, and Thomas. And again, you will be held accountable to the standards that you are asked to reach for. My sense, honestly, for those people who have walked away from the church because of erroneous, hateful teachings, my sense is when you get in front of the judge, what you may hear is, "Congratulations, I'm so happy you escaped that nonsense." Amen.